Imagine visiting a modern, bustling Chinese metropolis, a city of millions. But to experience its absolute crown jewel, you are forced to, you have to leave your car behind.
Right, completely ditch the car.
Yeah, you leave it behind, you board this slow-moving ferry, and you step onto an island where the narrow streets are literally echoing with live European piano music.
Welcome to Xiamen.
Exactly. Welcome to our deep dive, because that contradiction is exactly why we're digging into today's material with you.
It is a striking contradiction, isn't it? I mean, you have this hyper-modern coastal city in Southeast China, but at its very heart is this fiercely protected, almost surreal time capsule of an island.
It's wild. And for you, our listener, we are exploring a truly fascinating hybrid document today.
Yeah, it's definitely not your standard source material.
Not at all. On one level, we're looking at a beginner's English language learning tool. It's a narrative dialogue that tracks two travelers, Lily and Tom, as they navigate the area.
But if you look beneath that pedagogical surface...
Right, the teaching aspect.
Exactly. If you look past that, it is simultaneously this incredibly vibrant, highly detailed travel guide to the city of Xiamen itself.
Which is such a refreshing departure from the norm.
Yeah.
Usually a language phrasebook is just, it's like a somewhat stressful emergency toolkit.
Oh, for sure. You're just memorizing isolated phrases out of sheer panic.
Yes, just so you don't accidentally order something you're severely allergic to.
Right, but here, the learner is pulled into an actual sensory journey. And honestly, since this source is an English learning tool, I think we should keep our pace nice and steady today, really clearly share this travel experience.
I love that idea. A nice, relaxed pace for anyone learning along with us. Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission today is twofold. First, we're going to extract the rich, factual travel insights about Xiamen's unique geography, its preserved history, and of course, its incredible food.
Can't forget the food.
Never. But we also want to examine the underlying architecture of this document. We need to figure out exactly how wrapping vocabulary inside a travel narrative actually rewires your brain to retain language better than a standard textbook.
It's a really clever approach.
It really is. But let's start with the destination itself. Xiamen has this distinct reputation, which is highlighted right away in our source, as being one of the most comfortable cities in China.
Yeah, and that word comfortable, it actually carries a lot of weight in urban planning.
Really?
Right.
Wouldn't have thought of it as a technical term?
Well, it's just not a word you throw around lightly when describing a massive city. The city earns that title through a very specific combination of geographical and atmospheric traits.
Okay, break that down for us.
Sure. So Xiamen is characterized by exceptionally mild weather, notoriously clean streets, and immediate access to these beautiful scenic islands.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and because it sits right on the sea, the ocean dictates not just the climate, but the entire cultural rhythm of the city.
I find that concept of urban comfort so fascinating. It's basically about a lack of cognitive friction, right?
Exactly.
Clean streets, predictable weather, beautiful views. It all just lowers your daily stress baseline. But in our source, Lily and Tom don't just stay in the downtown metropolis, do they?
No, they don't. They immediately head for an island just off the coast called Gulangyu.
Gulangyu. And that's like the absolute focal point for anyone visiting Xiamen.
It is. But to physically get there, you have to take a ferry.
Right.
It's a very specific, deliberate 20-minute boat ride across the water.
Now, I have to admit, a 20-minute ferry ride doesn't sound like a massive, epic journey.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that brief transit so critical to the experience of the island?
Because that physical isolation is the entire mechanism behind the island's magic.
How so?
Well, think about it. If Gulangyu were connected to the mainland by a modern bridge, it would have been swallowed up by rapid urban development decades ago.
Oh, that makes total sense. They would have just paved right over it.
Exactly. So that 20-minute stretch of water acts as this impenetrable filter against modernization.
I see. It's like an airlock between two different worlds.
That's a great analogy.
I kind of think of that ferry ride as a mandatory mental palate cleanser. You know, you're physically separating yourself from the modern, bustling mainland.
Right.
And the slow pace of the boat just forces your brain to gear down before you even step foot on the dock. It's so rare to find a place where the journey itself forces you to slow down like that.
It's a perfect way to look at it. And once you cross that water and actually step off the dock, you're standing in a place with a deeply evocative local name.
Yes, I love this part.
Gulangyu actually translates to sunlight rock.
Sunlight rock. There's a real poetry to that. Is it just a metaphor or is there an actual rock?
Oh, it is very literal. There is a massive towering rock formation that serves as the absolute highest point on the island.
Okay, so it's a real landmark.
Yeah, and when you climb to the top of Sunlight Rock, you are afforded this sweeping panoramic view of the entire area.
Which is brilliant from a traveler's perspective.
Yeah.
Get this visual mastery over your domain before you dive into the maze of the streets.
Exactly, get your bearings.
But here's where the reality of that isolation we talked about becomes immediately, like physically apparent. Because once you descend from Sunlight Rock and start walking, you realize something is missing.
A very big something.
There are 0 cars on this island.
None at all. No traffic jams, no exhaust fumes, no delivery trucks idling on the corner.
It's hard to even picture.
I know. The transportation infrastructure is radically, intentionally simple. People either walk or they take these small, quiet electric carts.
I want to linger on this for a second because it is really hard for those of us who live in modern cities to truly conceptualize a car-free environment.
It changes everything.
It's not just that it's quieter. The entire geometry of human interaction changes when you remove cars. You don't have to hug the edge of a narrow sidewalk. You don't have that low-level subconscious anxiety of listening for approaching traffic.
Yeah.
The ambient noise of the modern world is just completely stripped away.
What's fascinating here is how that absence of mechanical noise creates a vacuum.
Okay.
And that vacuum is filled by the most unexpected backdrop imaginable.
Yes, here's where it gets really interesting for me. Because you are on an island off the coast of Southeast China.
Yep.
But visually, you feel like you've been dropped into the Mediterranean. Like, how did that architectural clash even happen?
It basically comes down to Xiamen's history as a major port of trade.
Okay.
In the 19th century, a large number of foreigners, diplomats, merchants, expatriates, they settled on Gulangyu.
A huge international community.
Right. And when they established their communities, they built these sprawling villas and mansions in the architectural styles of their home countries.
And the crucial piece of the puzzle here is that these century-old buildings haven't been torn down to make way for high-rises.
No, they are fiercely protected.
They've been preserved and transformed, right?
Right.
With many of these grand old houses now functioning as public museums and art galleries.
Exactly. And this brings us to the other, perhaps even more famous, nickname for Gulangyu. It isn't just known as Sunlight Rock.
Right.
It is widely celebrated as Piano Island.
Which makes total sense when you consider the environment we just described. Historically, this wealthy expatriate community brought pianos over with them, and a lot of musicians ended up settling there.
Yeah, they really established a culture of music.
And today, that legacy is just thriving. The island is home to specialized music schools, and live piano concerts are a constant occurrence.
But think about the physics of that for a moment.
It's physics.
Yeah, why is it known as Piano Island rather than just an island that happens to have some pianos on it?
Oh, I see where you're going.
It goes directly back to the ban on cars. Without that aggressive, low-frequency roar of internal combustion engines and tire noise, the acoustic environment of the island is incredibly delicate.
Wow.
It allows the music from those old European buildings to physically travel.
It spills right out of the open windows and just rolls down the street. Just imagine that sensory combination for a second.
It's pretty incredible.
You're strolling down the middle of a cobblestone street with absolutely no fear of traffic.
Yeah.
You're surrounded by historic European mansions. And the sound of a live piano echoes through the sea breeze.
It genuinely sounds like a scene out of a fantasy novel.
It really does. It's a completely different world, just suspended in time.
It is the ultimate expression of preservation. I mean, they haven't just preserved the buildings, they've preserved the acoustic atmosphere of a bygone era.
That is beautifully put. Well, I have to say, soaking in European architecture and piano music on a car-free island all day is definitely going to build an appetite.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's shift from the auditory landscape of Xiamen to its culinary profile. Because in the dialogue, Lily and Tom dive into some phenomenal local food.
They definitely eat well.
Yeah, they do. And it perfectly mirrors the city's philosophy of keeping things simple and natural.
So, the food in Xiamen belongs to a broader regional category known as Minnan cuisine.
Minnan cuisine, right.
And what's vital to understand about Minnan food is how wildly it subverts international expectations of what Chinese food is supposed to be.
Oh, absolutely. When a lot of international travelers think of Chinese cuisine, their minds instantly jump to the heavily spiced, fiery, mouth-numbing dishes of places like Sichuan or Hunan.
Right. They expect serious heat.
Exactly.
But Minnan cuisine is the polar opposite. The climate and the geography basically dictate the menu.
How so?
Because Xiamen is a humid coastal city with immediate access to the ocean, the culinary philosophy relies entirely on lightness and freshness.
Okay, that makes sense.
You don't need heavy spices or aggressive chili oils if you are pulling incredibly fresh local seafood out of the water that very morning. The goal is to highlight the natural, unmasked flavors of the ingredients.
The natural flavor. That's a very confident way to cook. If the ingredient isn't top tier, you can't just hide it behind a wall of spice.
Exactly. You can't fake it.
Let's look at the two signature dishes our travelers experience in the source, starting with a famous local noodle soup called sha cha mian, or sauté noodles.
Sha cha mian is a perfect example of coastal ingenuity. The soul of this dish isn't actually in the noodle itself, but in the highly specific, complex sauce it sits in.
Ooh, tell us about the sauce.
It's this rich, meticulously blended paste made from crushed peanuts, dried shrimp, and a blend of local spices.
Peanuts and shrimp. That is such an earthy, grounded combination paired with that bright, salty brine of the sea.
Yeah, it works so well together.
And when they blend it down, it creates this incredibly dense, creamy texture. It's not a thin, clear, watery broth at all.
No, not at all.
It's this robust, flavorful, deeply comforting bowl of food that clings to every single noodle.
And that rich, savory weight of the noodle soup is brilliantly counterbalanced by the second dish Lily and Tom encounter.
Yeah.
The ubiquitous oyster omelet.
Now, an oyster omelet sounds incredibly simple on paper, but there is a real science to how it's executed here, isn't there?
There really is. Again, it starts with the raw materials you need: plump, fresh oysters, pulled straight from the local waters.
Freshness is key.
Right. These are mixed into an egg batter and pan-fried on a blistering hot surface until the edges get perfectly crispy while the inside remains soft.
That sounds amazing.
But the defining characteristic, the element that makes it distinctively Minnan, is what happens right before it's served. It is generously topped with a signature sweet chili sauce.
Yes, that sweet sauce is brilliant. I like to think of it as a culinary highlighter pen.
A highlighter pen.
Yeah, because if you just have rich fried egg and savory oysters, it can get a bit heavy, right? But that sweet sauce cuts right through the fat. It provides this sharp, sweet contrast that actually amplifies the briny taste of the sea. It's just an incredibly cohesive sensory experience.
It really is. The culinary landscape completely mirrors the physical landscape. It's uncomplicated, deeply tied to the ocean, and profoundly comforting.
Okay, so feeding the body is obviously a priority for our travelers, but they also spend time feeding the mind.
They do.
After eating, they head to an academic institution. Now, I have to be honest with you.
Uh-oh.
If someone handed me a travel itinerary for a beautiful coastal city and one of the premier tourist destinations was a university campus, I would be highly skeptical.
Really?
Yeah. Like, who wants to spend their vacation looking at lecture halls and stressed out students?
Well, that is a completely fair assumption if you're picturing like a massive concrete complex in the middle of a gray urban grid.
Exactly what I was picturing.
But you have to imagine taking an elite academic institution and dropping it directly onto a premier tropical resort property, because that is essentially what Xiamen University is.
The geography described in the source sounds almost impossible.
It really pushes the boundaries of how picturesque a campus can be. It is built right on the coastline.
Right.
So you have this vast, sparkling blue ocean stretching out on one side and vibrant, lush green mountains rising up on the other.
Just gorgeous.
And nestled perfectly in between this dramatic natural setting are the university buildings, which feature these incredibly striking traditional red roofs.
Blue sea, green mountains, red roofs. The color palette alone is stunning.
It's very vivid.
I officially take back my skepticism. It literally sounds like they built a university inside a landscape painting.
It's so visually arresting that it has created a fascinating phenomenon. Xiamen University isn't just for academics. It is treated with the exact same reverence as a national park or a historic monument.
Wow.
Tourists actually flock to the city specifically just to stroll through the campus.
I do have to laugh, though, thinking about the actual students. Imagine trying to cram for a brutal calculus exam, but every time you look out the library window, you see tourists snapping vacation photos against the backdrop of the ocean.
It must be the most beautifully distracting place on Earth to get a degree.
Right. It certainly challenges your focus. But the inclusion of the university in the traveler's itinerary serves a very specific thematic purpose.
It does.
It reinforces the overarching conclusion that Lily and Tom reach in the dialogue. Xiamen is a treasure characterized by its deliberately slow pace. Whether you are wandering the car-free streets of Gulangyu, taking the time to savor a complex bowl of mian, or casually strolling through an oceanfront campus, the environment fundamentally demands that you slow down.
It forces you to just be present.
Exactly. So what does this all mean for the person actually reading this document? We've explored what Xiamen is: the preserved European architecture, the acoustics of Piano Island, the creamy peanut shrimp noodles.
All the fun stuff.
All the fun stuff.
Yeah.
But I want to pivot and look at the meta layer of what we're reading, because remember, this is an English language learning tool at its core.
Right. We can't forget that.
How does wrapping this vocabulary inside a travel narrative actually benefit the learner?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture of cognitive science and education, it really comes down to the concept of contextual memory.
Contextual memory. Okay, break that down.
When you hand a student a standard phrase book and tell them to memorize a list of 50 random travel words, you are creating massive cognitive friction. There is no emotional resonance, no spatial awareness. It's just data on a page.
Right, the brain just flushes that information the second the vocabulary test is over.
Exactly. But narrative-based learning bypasses that friction. The document pulls out 5 highly specific, essential vocabulary words to drill into the learner.
And since we want to make this accessible for beginners listening today, let's actually highlight those words nice and clearly.
That's a great idea. I'll read them out. The 5 words are ferry, car-free, gallery, creamy, and campus.
Let's do that one more time, nice and slow.
Sure. Ferry, car-free, gallery, creamy, campus.
Perfect. Notice how carefully curated those 5 words are. They aren't just random dictionary grabs.
Not at all.
They act as skeleton keys that unlock the 5 distinct sensory experiences of the trip we just took. Think about it. Ferry is the physical gateway to isolation.
Yep.
Car-free defines the auditory environment of the island. Gallery unlocks the preserved history and architecture.
Spot on.
Creamy prepares your palate for the local cuisine. And campus points you to the final visual landmark.
You're not just learning the word creamy in a vacuum.
Yeah.
You are learning it because your brain is actively imagining the texture of the mian you want to order.
Yes. Context creates memory.
Yeah.
And the document takes it a step further by immediately converting those vocabulary words into highly practical, functional questions.
The progression of the questions it teaches is brilliant because it perfectly mimics Maslow's hierarchy of needs for a traveler.
I like that.
It starts with absolute survival logistics, like how much is a ferry ticket and what time does the ferry leave?
Because if you can't articulate those 2 questions, you're quite literally stuck on the mainland.
Exactly. You never even reach the island.
Once survival is secured, it moves to sustenance. Can you recommend a good noodle restaurant?
Crucial for survival, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Then it expands to spatial awareness and navigation. Is there an English map? And finally, it opens up to broader, big-picture cultural planning. What is the best time to visit?
This raises an important point about the ultimate goal of the document. It's not about passing a grammar quiz. It's about empowerment. It takes a deeply intimidating scenario arriving in a foreign city where you don't speak the dominant language and breaks it down into manageable, actionable steps.
It really does.
It equips you to secure transport, feed yourself, and navigate a historic island, all while giving you the linguistic tools to actually express wonder at what you're seeing.
It transforms language from a stressful academic exercise into a key that unlocks a beautiful coastal adventure. You're basically daydreaming about walking the streets of Gulangyu while you practice your pronunciation.
Which is why the hybrid approach is so effective. The inspiration of the travel guide fuels the motivation required for the language instruction.
Well, this has been an incredibly layered journey. To summarize our deep dive today, we've unpacked the unique mechanics of one of China's most comfortable cities.
We covered a lot of ground.
We really did. We explored how a simple 20-minute ferry ride creates a powerful physical and mental isolation, allowing the island of Gulangyu to preserve its stunning 19th century European architecture.
Right.
We discovered how a radical ban on cars fundamentally alters the acoustic environment, transforming the streets into a live, echoing venue for piano music.
That was probably my favorite part.
It's so cool. We dug into the science of Minnan cuisine, seeing how coastal geography prioritizes the natural unmasked flavors of the sea through dishes like that creamy peanut shrimp mian and fresh oyster omelets highlighted with sweet sauce.
Making me hungry all over again.
Same. And finally, we marveled at Xiamen University an academic institution with geography so impossible it doubles as a major tourist park.
And tying it all together, we saw how a clever pedagogical framework uses all of that sensory travel data to anchor practical English vocabulary in the learner's mind.
It really is a masterclass in making learning genuinely irresistible. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you, our listener, with a final thought to mull over.
Okay, well, let's hear it.
We spent a lot of time today marveling at the preserved magic of Gulangyu, a car-free island that fiercely protects its history and celebrates live piano music in the streets. But looking beyond just Xiamen, what does the enduring massive popularity of a place like Piano Island tell us about modern society?
Oh, that's a big question.
It is. We live in an era entirely dominated by high-speed transport, constant digital noise, and hyper-rapid urban development. In a world that is obsessed with moving faster and building higher, perhaps our deep global fascination with places like Gulangyu reveals a fundamental human craving.
A need to escape.
Yes, it shows that despite our love of modern convenience, we still desperately need preserved, slow, and quiet spaces, sanctuaries, where the loudest thing you hear is the ocean breeze and piano.
That is a profoundly true takeaway. No matter how advanced our cities get, we all need a sunlight rock to retreat to.
We really do. Thank you for joining us on this virtual trip and for unpacking the mechanics of memory, food, and preservation with us today. Until next time, keep exploring and keep learning.